Hey, you're listening to Stop the Scroll, a social media marketing podcast, and I'm your host, Heidi Schmidt. I'm a social media strategist and agency owner with over 15 years of marketing experiences helping businesses grow online. We'll be diving into what you need to know so that you can show up confidently online without the overwhelm. Get your notebook ready to jot down some amazing marketing gems, and let's dive into it. Welcome back to another episode of Stop the Scroll. I am your host, Heidi Schmidt, social media strategist, marketing strategist, all the things, agency owner. And today I'm excited to chat with you because I want to challenge this concept of content batching. And I am challenging it because we batch our content for our clients, usually a week to 2 weeks at a time. But I do not batch my own content. And I feel like this is a little bit of away from the industry norm, if you will. So I wanted to kind of talk about what I do instead, because I was on a call the other week and we were talking about all of the things that drain our energy in our businesses. And recently, I started offering these VIP days, and I realized very quickly, as I am so far behind on editing, that they do not work with my energy. Like, they don't work with my workflow. And they were a nice concept, like, one day, get your content done and blah, 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 and 10 to 15 reels, whatever. But I do not love them. In fact, I dread them. So that is not a service that I am going to continue offering. And, as I have learned, this is not obviously around content batching. And I think all of us business owners learn, especially as we're diversifying our service offerings, what feels good and what doesn't. And this conversation that we were having about all of the things about content batching, it requires so much time and focus and creative clarity, like all at once. And for those of us that have a little bit of neurodivergent brains, like maybe ADHD, whatever, any of those things, one or all, can be a challenge that many entrepreneurs face, whether it's time, whether it's focus. Many of us are multitaskers, or that creative clarity. Like, I get my creative clarity in bursts. And so content batching, and assuming that you batch your content, it assumes that you are doing and thinking in the same session. And a lot of us just don't have that. And there are people that break down content batching into multiple steps, like batching them in steps. But for some of us, the idea of batching anything can just lead us into that crippling overwhelm, right? And if you've ever been the person to look at your content calendar or look at your marketing plan for the week ahead and realize, holy shit, I have no inspiration. I don't have the energy. What am I going to do? If you don't have the mental bandwidth to plan and create and schedule all of those posts all at once, I'm going to give you an alternative approach. And I'm going to kind of break down my system, which I call, and it's not anything new. I've actually seen a few other people on Instagram mention it. It is idea batching. And so what I do is I save ideas. I have a running list in Notion that is just all of the things. And I tend to go through and when I have a creative burst, I go through, and the least overwhelming to me is actually the planning. I can plan out, I know what days I want to do reels, I know what days I want to do carousels. I can even batch captions pretty quickly. My challenge, it is in the actual creative work. And because I'm such a perfectionist, my graphics, I have actually simplified them. And so recently in my masterclass, we were talking about how batching can just feel overwhelming, and creating calendars can feel overwhelming. And how do you know that you're creating the right stuff? Well, one, that comes down to you have to have your strategy. But idea batching for me is the process of collecting and organizing those content ideas without the pressure to create them right away. I don't have to be pressured. And for me, if I go a step further than just the ideas, I will batch some captions. And they may not be complete. They may not be fully ready to publish, But it kind of honors that creativity comes in waves. And this method kind of allows me to capture the wave without riding it to shore. If I batch my ideas, then I know that the next time that I'm sitting at the screen being like, oh my God, I haven't posted anything this week, I know that I have a bank to go to and be like, okay, I can take that. Or, hey, I've already got a caption up here. I wasn't ready to publish it, but I can take 5 minutes and just like do a carousel or a quick reel. It allows me to work when I have the time while still showing up as my authentic self. So I don't always have to be like creating 20 posts at a time. So I have a Notion setup wherein I do this for a couple of my clients too, because some of my clients, like, we will batch the video content. It won't be fully edited, but we literally meet up once a month and we batch all the talk about like, hey, these are some of our inspirations. This is what's trending. And then we spend about an hour and a half. So I keep running a list of ideas of those inspirations, the ones that they send me and the ones that I see that I'm like, ooh, this could be fun to do. So I store those all in Notion, and I store them for myself also in Notion. And then for my client, once they've been approved, like once we say, okay, we go through ideas, and we typically post like 8 to 10 reels per month, depending on if it's a 4-week month, we do 2 a week. I will say, okay, we need the video for this one. We need the video for this one. Okay, this one just needs some B-roll, which we probably have. Or if there's one, they have 2 different locations. So like we might be like, okay, we want to do this one, but we're going to do it next month at our other location. So I record all that. And then once I have the video, like even if I don't use it that month, like maybe some other trend comes up and I'm like, oh, I want to jump on this. Then I know that there's other things. So like if there's a slow month and I'm like grasping for, we're not seeing anything that's trending that we really like, I can always go back to those ideas, those things that might be a little bit more evergreen that we've seen. Some like behind the scenes content, all that kind of fun stuff. Like that's all stuff that lives in the Notion board. And I do that for myself too, like whether if I'm reading a newsletter and I was like, and I see something that's like, ooh, I should really talk about that on a podcast. Like my podcast editor and I use Airtable to track my podcast production. So I will often go in there and just like brain dump ideas. Have another similar table in Notion for myself, where if there's things that I see that I'm like, ooh, I want to give my insight on that. Or that topic's really interesting. Or, oh, hey, social media today talked about this latest thing in social media news. I should really talk about that. Those all go into the bank of content ideas. And then those are really easy for me to capture and to list out and to like screenshot. And so every couple weeks or so, or once a week when I actually like, oh, I have time to plan for next week, I will batch out my captions so that I know that I always have a starting point. Because, when you think about creating content, everyone gets stuck on something, whether it's like, oh my God, I don't have the time, or oh my God, I don't know what to say. Like whatever your hang up is, like just batching your ideas or even your captions can be so just relieving. Like for me, like earlier this week, I had a caption that I had batched that was supposed to promote my masterclass, but I never published it because I didn't have a graphic or a reel. So earlier this week, like I took that caption, I modified it, and boom, like something went out. So you can use saved post. Like I also have an Instagram, just posts that I see that are like, oh, those are really cool. So I have ideas in multiple different places. Anything that sparks your inspiration should be added to your idea bank. Then when you're like, hey, I've got a half hour, let me batch some captions. Let me take this idea and be like, hey, ChatGPT, give me a social media caption on this idea or blah, 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 this news story, whatever it is. You can use ChatGPT to batch out those captions. Or if you're, oftentimes like, because I like to tell a little bit of story to it, I'll have ChatGPT start it, and then I add my own personalization and edit. Then I know that at least like, okay, I've got 4 or 5 captions ready to go. And then I think like, if I'm still feeling inspired and don't have a million other things on my to-do list, maybe I'll even do like a real draft or 2 if I am so inspired. But I never pressure myself to just like, okay, I'm going to sit here for the next 2 hours and batch out my own content. One, batching shouldn't take 2 hours. I don't know. There are people that are like, here, I can help you batch a month of content in an hour, or I can help you batch a year of emails in a day. Like, who has that kind of time? And if that's the service that you sell, that's totally fine. Like, no judgment, because there is obviously a need because you have a business. People are hiring you. But like, I, as a business owner, between client calls, between managing the team, between managing a podcast and all the other client work that comes up, like, I don't have time to batch a year of content in a day. Like, who does that? If you do it, like, I'm curious as to your process. Like, legitimately, like, email me, tell me your process. I want to know if you like batch a quarter at a time or whatever you do. A friend of mine who has a day, and she will just record all of her video content for that week on that day. It takes her like an hour to 2 hours, which is amazing. But she also spends a lot of time editing. But, you know, like, it's a day when her business is not open. So it's like, okay, you have that day. It's still work. Like, let's not underestimate that. But I like the lower pressure of idea batching and batching those ideas and planning out those ideas so that, you know, if I look at my calendar on a Monday, I kind of know what needs to be created. And like, I can do 2 posts at a time. I can do 5 posts at a time, whatever my energy is feeling. I don't always have to be like starting from scratch, because that's the overwhelming part, right? When you're starting from scratch and when you're like, God, I don't know what to post, which is what I hear in my masterclass. Like, my students are like, I don't know what to post. And it's like, well, we're working on your strategy and we're going to come up with those ideas and we're going to give you places to find that inspiration. You know, do you find things on Instagram? Where do you find your inspiration for longer form content, for blog posts or podcast ideas? Like, where do you find that? Because that should also come into your ideas. Like, okay, I haven't posted anything this week. Well, do you have an old blog post that like maybe it performed? And this is where repurposing comes in also. You know, if you're really, really that stuck on ideas, go into your Instagram profile, look at your professional dashboard, and then look at like your one, like Instagram has a monthly recap. So you can see like what content performed well each month. You can look at content that's similar to yours. You can look at your analytics and see your top reels based on likes. You can see your top reels based on views. If you're really that bent up for content ideas, like, just go repurpose something. But I like to think that idea batching is a little bit more flexible and a little bit more sustainable. Actually, hold on. So I've seen a few creators on Instagram kind of talking about this. And, you know, I think social media managers, coaches, consultants, whatever you want to call us, a lot of people who once preached about batching are also starting to recognize that so many business owners just don't have the energy for that. And also, like, you know, when we think about batching, like, you're batching content, like, okay, well, that's not going to be trending in 4 weeks or 6 weeks or 12 weeks. Like, if you're batching a whole quarter, like, that's why I say, like, idea batching. So finding those ideas, brain dumping ideas, finding inspiration, and, you know, being inspired to do the planning part. Like, just batch plan, but don't batch create. I don't know. That's just me. That is something that I have been thinking about and noodling about, because I don't batch my own content. Heck, I can't even like sit down with enough time to like batch my podcast. Like, I will say I have to apologize to my podcast editor, because I was supposed to record this yesterday, the day before I'm recording it. But my family had a thing, and I literally almost had to go to Vermont. And I would have done it for my mother. Like, I love my mother dearly, but it was going to be really overwhelming for me. But, you know, this is my sidebar of the episode, where you get to know a little bit about me personally. I am now, my husband said this to me when we were like going back and forth about whether I was going to come up, and I was going back and forth. My mom just had a medical procedure done. And we are of the age, my husband and I are elder millennials. And so we are coming of the age where we like our parents are starting to need more of that from us. And it's an interesting transition. And, a lot of people who are Gen Xers have been in that sandwich generation for, years now. I think of a former mentor of mine. So I am transitioning into that kind of sandwichy generation. And it's overwhelming. It is overwhelming. And it's also hard when you don't live near family. Like, when you can't just drop everything, I would have loved to have been able to drop everything to just go up and be with my mom today and then come back. But there are no airlines that fly into Burlington, Vermont. If you could see my video, my head is in my hands. There are no airlines. It would have been a 9:00 flight at a national airport, and then getting into Burlington at 10:30, and then it was going to be a whole thing. But it's fine. I had booked a flight. I canceled it. And my mother, when she has another procedure, she's getting a joint replacement. Probably in a few months, I will be the one to be up there. My sister, and my aunt took ones for the team. They're amazing. But yeah, it was a stressful 24 hours. And so I did not get to pre-record my podcast episode. And I have another coach that I work with, and she batches, and she is just launching her podcast, and she's got 20 episodes recorded. I'm like, girl. Yeah, everyone has their own creative process, right? If batching works for you, then that's amazing. I want to learn more. But content batching, let's be clear, is not the only way to stay consistent. And also, let's be clear, consistency is certainly a part of your marketing tactics, but it is not your strategy. Consistency does not equal strategy. Let's be clear. If you are feeling overwhelmed with your content, maybe just batch your ideas. Maybe just batch your captions. Maybe batch your B-roll. You don't have to batch the whole thing. I do like to batch my B-roll when I'm feeling inspired. A few weeks ago, I set up my tripod on my back porch, and I brought my laptop out, and my husband was like, "What the heck are you doing?" And I was like, "Dude, you're killing my vibe." And he was like, "Oh, okay, let me leave you be." And it's funny because earlier this week, I saw a post from Shannon McKinstry. I think that's her name. And she's amazing. She's such an amazing social media coach. And I absolutely love, love, love her content. And she was saying that she does monthly batching sessions. Like she gets dressed up, she goes to a coffee shop, and she batches her some aesthetic photos for herself and some B-roll at a coffee shop. And I'm like, ooh, girl, that's brilliant. So I may start doing that. And I may gank that, bamboozle, whatever, stealing that idea from her because she has inspired me. So giving her credit, because that's brilliant, especially for those of us who work from home, my workspace, it is not aesthetic. It is not demure. It is, I have cats climbing up the back of my chair. I've got my coffee cup with a day old coffee. It is not an aesthetic spot here. But on that note, everyone has their own workflow. So if content batching works for you, do not feel that I am demeaning those who batch their content. That's your process. I am just sharing an alternative for those of you who may be overwhelmed and feel like you're a failure because you're not batching your content. You are not a failure. Let's be clear. So if you're ready to stop forcing what doesn't work and you really want someone, a partner, to build a strategy with you or help you build your content, help you get some clarity on your content, which is what my consulting packages do, reach out to me, schedule a call, schedule a strategy session. And if you are ready to do it yourself but need a little bit of guidance, again, join the 30-day Instagram challenge. Until next time, go forth and batch some ideas, get inspired, and share with me, leave a review, leave a comment, subscribe, share, all the fun things. Connect with me online at Heidi Schmidt Creative. Until next time, go forth, create amazing content that stops the scroll.